Understand our place in space, to follow thought instead of speed. You're not just watching, you're becoming part of something vast and real. A shared pursuit of truth and wonder that no silence can conceal. Ergun bows beyond trends and time, building meaning where stars align. Space Global Sair, more than a name, a legacy powered by effort and flame. Years of work, belief and mind, leaving shallow noise behind. Through the dark, through doubt, through infinity, you prove exploration starts within humanity. The signal keeps traveling long after the screen goes dark, because real dedication leaves an eternal mark. The universe listens as the lark and answers back, and answers back, and answers back.
The cosmos breathes a silent, ancient sigh, as stardust dreams beneath an empty sky. Mysteries unfold in cosmic tapestries, carried on the gentle solar breeze. Our thoughts reach out to distant light, exploring secrets hidden from our sight. A vast and lonely wonder fills the air, a quiet questioning beyond all care. The universe, a canvas deep and wide, where silent wisdom gently does reside. We drift through nebulae, a timeless quest, with contemplative hearts. Doubts we test in the endless black, a solemn grace, searching for meaning in boundless space. An awe-inspiring journey, slow and deep, while ancient cosmic promises we keep. Whispers from the void, a gentle call to understand the nature of it all. From primordial matter, spirits rise, reflecting cosmic brilliance in our eyes. A solitary voyage, slow and grand, across the uncharted, star-dusted sand. Every flicker of light, a story old, a universal language yet untold. We ponder time, its infinite embrace, in this serene and enigmatic place. A silent, vast cathedral of the night, bathed in distant, nascent light. We drift through nebulae, a timeless quest, with contemplative hearts. Doubts we test in the endless black, a solemn grace, searching for meaning in boundless space. An awe-inspiring journey, slow and deep, while ancient cosmic promises we keep. Whispers from the void, a gentle call to understand the nature of it all. From tiny particles, our minds expand, grasping truths held in the cosmic hand. A journey of inquiry, pure and free, to touch the edges of eternity. We seek the knowledge darkness hides, consciousness among the stars presides.
welcome to our live coverage of the CAS500-2 mission. Falcon 9 is currently scheduled to lift off at 12 a.m. Pacific time from Slick 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. And this is going to be an exciting one. We've got 45 payloads to deploy over the course of this 2.5-hour mission. Hello, everyone. My name is Zachary Lupin, and I'm an avionics supply chain engineer here at SpaceX.
And I'm Nathan Commissariat, a launch engineer here at SpaceX. At the very top of our stack is the CAS500-2 payload, or Compact Advanced Satellite 500 Phase 2 for Korea Aerospace Industries. CAS500-2 is a high-resolution Earth observation satellite jointly led by the Korea Aerospace Administration and the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport. CAS500-2 was developed by Korea Aerospace Industries and is equipped with an electro-optical payload designed to acquire high-resolution imagery to support a wide range of applications.
Also on board for today's mission, we have 44 additional rideshare payloads, including Earth observation satellites and CubeSats, some intended to provide capabilities that enhance emergency management, monitor environmental conditions, study space weather, and more.
We're currently T-minus 6 minutes, 30 seconds into launch, and teams are tracking no issues. Weather is currently green. If for some reason we don't launch tonight, a backup opportunity is available later today, Sunday, May 3rd, at 11:59 p.m. Pacific launch time.
So as that clock ticks closer to our T0, let's take a closer look at the rocket supporting tonight's mission. The Falcon 9 rocket there on your screen is a 2-stage rocket designed for the reliable and safe transportation of satellites, cargo, and people. Starting from the very top of the rocket, we have the payload fairing. The fairing is a protective composite shell that shields the payload from aerodynamic heating until the vehicle is outside of Earth's atmosphere. The curved shape of the fairing contributes to Falcon 9's overall efficiency, helping to reduce drag during flight.
Once in space, the two fairing halves will separate and fall back to Earth, where they will be recovered by a recovery vessel, Go Beyond, and later refurbished and reused on future flights. Both halves of the fairings flying today are flight-proven, with each side having flown before. If recovery goes to plan, the fairings will be pulled from the ocean and prepped to fly again.
And located right below the fairing is Falcon 9's second stage, which features a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine. Now that MVAC engine is stored inside of the black carbon fiber interstage below the second stage. And below that is the first stage, or booster, which is about fully loaded with 1 million pounds of liquid oxygen and RP-1 rocket-grade kerosene. Now, the first stage supporting today's mission has flown over 30 missions.
Pressurizing for a strong back retract.
And good news there. This booster previously launched Transporter 14, Transporter 15, Bandwagon 2, along with several Starlink missions, just to name a few. And the Falcon 9 first stage makes up the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle and has 9 Merlin M1D engines at the bottom, which are capable of generating more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust.
About 2.5 minutes into flight, the first stage will separate and make its way back to Earth. Today, the booster is headed.
Retract has started.
Today, the booster is headed to Landing Zone 4, or LZ4, at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. With 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go, everything is still on track for launch.
And we just heard that call out that strong back retract has started, and you can see the clamp arms opening around the second stage there on your screen.
It'll take about 15 seconds for them to fully open, but once they're out of the way, the strong back will recline back away from the rocket to give it room for liftoff. Now that those clamp arms are fully open, the vehicle is fully free at the top. And you can see there that the launch tower's strong back is now moving away from Falcon 9, allowing it to stand freely before liftoff.
Right now, both stages are nearly fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of propellant. As noted earlier, that includes RP-1, a highly refined kerosene, and liquid oxygen chilled to more than 300 degrees below zero.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out that stage 1 LOX loading is completed. Now you may have also noticed white clouds venting from the rocket, and those white clouds are not smoke, that is condensation. As the liquid oxygen warms slightly inside the tanks, some of it boils off. That gas is vented to manage pressure, and when the vented oxygen hits the warm and humid California air outside, it instantly condenses into clouds. Now, coming up shortly, we will be hearing a call out that stage 2 LOX loading is complete, and at that point, the Falcon 9 rocket will then be fully fueled. We should be hearing that call out in just about 15 seconds from now.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out that stage 2 LOX loading is completed. The Falcon 9 rocket is now fully fueled for today's mission. Now at the T-1 minute mark, Falcon 9 will be in startup, indicating that the vehicle's onboard flight computers will have taken over the launch countdown. And from that point onwards,
Ground
the rocket...
gas, close out.
And from that point onwards, the rocket will be in full control. So we should be hearing that call out that Falcon 9 is in startup in just about 15 seconds from now.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there's that call out that Falcon 9 rocket is in startup, and the vehicle's flight computers have taken control of the count. Both Stage 1 and Stage 2 are now also pressurizing for launch. Now we're just waiting for the launch director.
For launch.
There it is. The launch director has given the final go for launch. So awesome news there. And we'll just sit back and wait for Falcon 9 to launch the CAS500-2 mission.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mission. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go CAS500-2. Vehicle is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds into flight, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. We're currently throttling the booster's engines down to prepare for max Q,
Power and telemetry
the
nominal.
point of maximum aerodynamic stresses on the vehicle. Max Q is reached when the air density of the atmosphere decreases faster than the increasing speed of the rocket.
Falcon is supersonic.
And there's that call out for max Q.
Max Q.
There's the call out for max Q. From here on, even though the velocity is rapidly increasing, the atmospheric density is rapidly decreasing, resulting in less loads on Falcon 9.
And coming up shortly, we're going to have several events happening in rapid succession. In order, these are MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start or SES-1, the boost back burn, and fairing deploy. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, is where all 9 Merlin 1D engines shut down to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation when the first and second stage separate. The stage 1 flip is when the booster turns itself around. We'll then see the boost back burn of the first stage, where the booster engines relight to send the booster back towards LZ4. And in parallel, the MVAC engine on the second stage will light, which will be called out as second engine start 1 or SES-1. Now, this engine burn lasting several minutes will propel the second stage and the payload to orbit. And then finally, we will see the payload fairings jettison away from the vehicle. Now, that's a lot of major milestones, and we should see that sequence of events start in just a couple moments.
Miko.
Separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
And there we had that sequence of events. Next up will be the fairing separation happening in just about 15 seconds from now.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there you heard and saw those 6 events that happened back to back, including main engine cutoff, stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start 1, and the boost back burn and fairing separation. And that boost back burn is scheduled to conclude in a few seconds here.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
And right on cue, another engine cutoff on the booster and completion of that boost back burn. The next major milestone coming up is the entry burn on our Falcon 9 first stage, which is scheduled to occur at the 6-minute, 13-second mark. The entry burn is used to slow the first stage during atmospheric re-entry as it heads towards landing zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California.
Now, we're currently in our first MVAC burn, which should last another few minutes, and you can see the MVAC engine there on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, today, the Falcon 9 booster, which is on the left-hand side of your screen, will be performing 3 burns in order to land. Now, we just observed the boost back burn, and as Nathan mentioned, next up will be the entry burn. Now, the entry burn slows the vehicle down just before it hits the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And without this burn, we would only be using the atmospheric drag to slow down Falcon 9, which would add extra stress to the vehicle.
Now, following that entry burn, the booster will then initiate its final burn, the landing burn, to slow the vehicle's descent and allow for a soft touchdown on the landing zone. Now, when that Falcon 9 fires up the center M1D engine for re-entry, the vehicle will be flying through Merlin's exhaust gases, also known as the rocket's plume, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle's surface. And you have seen these marks across the flight-proven Falcon 9 first stage fleet. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight, the soot builds up a little more on the outside of the vehicle. As we mentioned earlier, this booster, including today's flight, has flown over 30 times, and that awesome flight history also means that this booster has a substantially sooty exterior.
Now, on our Falcon 9 booster, attached at the very top are 4 titanium hypersonic grid fins, and those help steer the first stage as it returns to Earth. And when the booster is on screen, you may also see white puffs coming off of the Falcon 9, and those are cold nitrogen gas thrusters, which aid in attitude control.
We are moments away from the beginning of that entry burn. You should see the graphics at the bottom of your screen light up as the engines do on the bottom of your screen. We're about 10 seconds away from that entry burn startup.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's a call out for that entry burn startup on the Falcon 9 first stage. This burn is set to last only 11 seconds, and again, it's just slowing down the vehicle in preparations for its final burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And that concludes our entry burn.
Now, as mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to recover this booster, and today we'll be targeting a landing at Landing Zone 4 at Vandenberg. And you can follow along with the burn via the engine graphic at the bottom left hand.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
And good news there, you can follow along with the burn via the engine graphic at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Now, as this burn happens, you'll notice a decrease in both speed and altitude, as well as see which engines are being relit. And this is coming up in just about 15 seconds from now.
Stage 1 transonic. Stage 1 landing burn.
And there's that call out for landing burn start on the Falcon 9 first stage. And again, this is the final burn that the booster will perform for today's
Stage
mission.
1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And fantastic news there. Another successful landing of this
Stage
Falcon.
2 has entered terminal guidance.
Another successful landing of this Falcon 9 first stage.
Coming up next, we are expecting the shutdown of the second stage MVAC engine. This is known as Second Engine Cutoff 1, or SECO-1. This second engine cutoff is expected to happen in about 10 seconds from now.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And there's a successful cutoff of that second engine
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
and confirmation of good orbit. And with that, we're going to take a break as the next major milestone, SES-2, where the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage ignites for a second time, will be occurring at the T+54 minute and 8-second mark. So sit back, enjoy the views and the space jams, and we'll see you back here in about 40 minutes.
boggle the mind. The technology caught up to them.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the CAS500-2 mission. And it's been a great launch and overall mission so far. We had an on-time liftoff at 12 a.m. Pacific time, and we recovered the first stage again, marking more than 30 successful landings of that booster. And now the MVAC engine on the second stage, which you see there on your screen, is preparing to reignite, and this is also known as SES-2. And that'll be coming up here at the T plus 54 minute and 8 second mark, and will only last about 3 seconds.
Nominal orbit insertion 2.
And there we have it, a successful SES-2 and a shutdown on the second stage engine. Next up is our primary payload deployment, which will begin in just a few minutes at T plus 59 minutes, 54 seconds. So we'll see you back here again shortly. Welcome back, everybody, to our live coverage of the CAS500-2 mission. We are moments away from the beginning of our primary payload deployment on today's mission. The CAS500-2 is a high-resolution Earth observation satellite jointly led by the Korea Aerospace Administration and Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport. This satellite has been developed by the Korea Aerospace Industries and is equipped with an electro-optical payload designed to acquire high-resolution imagery to support a wide range of applications. Let's now watch as this payload is deployed in roughly 60 seconds.
And we've got an awesome view of our payload stack there on your screen. The second stage is currently flying over the eastern side of Africa.
We're about 24 seconds now away from the deployment of CAS500-2.
CAS500-2, separation confirmed.
And there's that confirmation of CAS500-2 being deployed, and it is now on its way. But we still have another 44 payloads to deploy on tonight's mission. Now we have about 15 minutes before our next deployment sequence, so we're going to take another short break, and we'll be back around the T+1 hour and 12-minute mark.
Welcome back, everybody, to our live launch coverage of the CAS500-2 mission. Just before the break, we saw the first of 3 payload deployment sequences, with our second coming up here now at T plus 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 37 seconds. We've got a total of 19 separate payloads to deploy in this sequence, and here's a few of them. First up, the Hellenic Space Dawn mission, which includes 2 CubeSats, Ilios and Selene. These missions will demonstrate innovative space technologies for Earth observation and optical communications. Also integrated via Exolaunch is Basalt 3, which will be the first privately launched satellite to be operated by LLMs and AI models.
We will also be deploying the Cube 2 satellite. Now, Cube 2, also integrated via Exolaunch, will demonstrate the first ever quantum key exchange between a CubeSat and a ground station, laying the foundation for cost-effective, unhackable global communications. We will also be deploying FrontierSat, which is Calgary's first student-built satellite, which aims to study space ionospheric weather and perform novel technology demonstrations. And another payload integrated via Exolaunch, Raven, is the first Icarus 2.0 satellite. Its mission will enable researchers to better understand animal movement and how ecosystems respond to change.
We'll also be deploying Unseen Labs' newest satellite, Bro 21, which is dedicated to the detection of radio frequency signals for maritime surveillance. Integrated via Exolaunch, Endurosat is the Falcon 2 Earth observation mission, designed as a fully managed Earth observation data delivery service to provide fast, high-quality optical satellite data. Also, Hydra 3, integrated via Exolaunch, features a next-generation commercial multispectral thermal telescope.
We will also be deploying SNAPPY, an acronym for Solar Neutrino and Astroparticle Physics, which is a NASA Innovative Advanced Concept funded project of Wichita State University. And it will study the background rate of our planned solar neutrino detector signature. Also integrated via Exolaunch, Gen 1, which is an S-band commercial communications mission with the platform provided by Orb Astro. We will also be deploying ICOR-1, which is Poland's first truly domestic developed X-band synthetic aperture radar satellite, enabling high-resolution Earth imaging regardless of weather conditions or time of day.
Now we're about to deploy these 11 payloads plus 8 more in just a few moments. Getting some awesome views right now of our second stage of our Merlin vacuum engine.
Yeah, absolutely spectacular views here of our payload stacks on top of the second stage. The second stage is currently flying over Eastern Europe.
And we are now just under a minute from the start of that payload deployment sequence.
This is quite a view right now of all these payloads on top of our second stage.
Yep, 45 total for today.
Confirmed. Cube 2 deploy confirmed.
Here we go.
Deploy confirmed. Helios deploy confirmed. Raven satellite for the Icarus Initiative Talos deploy confirmed. Brow 21 deploy confirmed. Falcon 2 deploy confirmed. Hydra 3 deploy confirmed. Snappy deploy confirmed. Gen 1 deploy confirmed. Lynk Tower 7 deploy confirmed. Basalt 3 deploy confirmed. Expected LOS.
Now, the upcoming second half of this deploy sequence will happen without a downlink, so we're going to be standing by for the next several minutes while we wait for confirmation of the next several deploys. We'll see you back here in a little under 10 minutes.
Lynk Tower 8, Pelican 8, Pelican-7, Jackal, Pelican-9, ICEYE 1, and Drishti. Deploys confirmed. All deploys from deploy event 2 successful.
And there we heard successful deployment for all of the payloads in this deployment sequence. We now have about 8 minutes before our next event, which will be the next relight of the Merlin vacuum engine on the Falcon 9 second stage. So we're going to take another break, and we'll be back just before that event, which will take place at T+1 hour, 36 minutes, and 6 seconds. welcome back to our live coverage of the CAS500-2 mission. We are currently expecting the third ignition of our Merlin vacuum, or MVAC engine, here shortly, followed by the next coast phase. And this burn is going to be an extremely quick engine burn, only lasting about 1 second. And we should be hearing that call out for SES-3 in just a few moments from now. And there we've got views of the MVAC engine there on your screen. The second stage is currently flying west of North America. Should be hearing that call out for SES-3.
Nominal orbit insertion 3.
And there's confirmation of a successful third burn of the MVAC engine on the second stage, and confirmation of good orbit. We're going to be heading into our next coast phase now, and we'll see you back here in 40 minutes and about T+2 hours and 13 minutes for SES-4.
25th century AD. We sat there and looked at a rocket from Mars, and you just boggled the mind and mind and mind and mind. And the technology caught up, didn't it?
Welcome back to our live coverage of the CAS500-2 mission. It's been a great launch and overall mission so far. We've had 3 successful burns of our MVAC engine on our second stage, and we just had our 4th. This 4th burn lasted only 1 second and altered the vehicle's trajectory just slightly to be in the proper orbit for this next deployment sequence.
Nominal orbit insertion 4.
And there's that call out for nominal orbital insertion. So we have our final payload deploy sequence coming up shortly at around the T+2 hour and 19-minute mark. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the CAS500-2 mission. Our final deployment sequence is set to begin in just a few moments. We've got 25 payloads to deploy during this sequence, and here's a few of them. First up, we've got Gemini Pollux, integrated via Exolaunch. This satellite is designed to monitor ionospheric total electron count to support the development of tsunami early warning systems.
We will also be deploying New Link, which will provide low data rate Internet of Things connectivity to remote areas. Another satellite we have integrated via Exolaunch, Busansat, is a 12U CubeSat.
Gemini Pollux, deployment confirmed.
And Busansat is equipped with a polarization camera system to monitor aerosol data
Period, deploy confirmed.
and super thin clouds around the Busan metropolitan city area in South Korea.
Confirmed. Busansat, deploy confirmed. Link 1, deploy confirmed. Pearl 1B, deploy confirmed. Forest 18, Mango Shriken, deploy confirmed. Pearl 1A, deploy confirmed. Forest 19, Patadastra, deploy confirmed. CO7, deploy confirmed. Forest 16, Sovitascope, deploy confirmed. HEO 14, deploy confirmed. HEO 12, deploy confirmed. Expected LOS. HEO 13 and HEO 10, deploy confirmed. ICEYE 2, deploy confirmed. ICEYE 1, deploy confirmed. Loft Earth Daily 5, deploy confirmed. Loft Earth Daily 6, deploy confirmed. TO-15, deploy confirmed. Loft Earth Daily 2, deploy confirmed. Loft Earth Daily 3, deploy confirmed. TO-11, deploy confirmed. Loft Earth Daily 4, deploy confirmed. Loft Earth Daily 7, deploy confirmed. All deploys from deploy event 3 successful.
And with that confirmation, we have successfully deployed all 45 payloads tonight. Now, it has been a long mission, but so worth it to see all of those missions now in space. We would like to thank Korea Aerospace Industries for entrusting us with their spacecraft today, as well as all of our rideshare customers on board.
We also want to say thank you to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for their support, and to you, our viewers. A full listing of today's payloads can be found at spacex.com/launches. For more launch coverage, be sure to check that same site for the most up-to-date information, or follow us at SpaceX on X. And with that, we'll be bringing our webcast to a close. Thanks again for joining us.